The federal government's immigration enforcement has been marked by violence and an assault on the dignity of all Chicagoans. I call on this council to hold the federal government of the United States to the same standards of accountability you apply elsewhere in the world.
Shots were fired at Border Patrol agents and objects, including bricks and a paint can, were thrown.
Federal agents here in the Chicago area are on alert tonight, following word they are being targeted by leaders of a major street gang.
All right, so it's Veterans Day, a day to honor the people who actually earned respect in this country, the people who bled for it, fought for it, and never asked for a handout. And just like the vets that served this country, ICE serves this country. The DHS serves this country. These are people with incredibly difficult jobs, work most of us couldn't even imagine doing. They deal with real danger, chaos, and constant criticism, all while protecting the same people who complain about them. And while we're supposed to be honoring service and sacrifice, the same government is completely in shambles. Yet somehow they found a way to quietly reopen the government, not after 1, 2, or 3 times, but after 14 days to reopen the government. 14 chances to put Americans first, and they said no every single time. Then magically, right after the Democrats swept their election, everything just suddenly opened back up. Convenient, right? Now, let's be honest. The Democrats know exactly what they're doing. They drag things out. They create frustration. They make people emotional because emotional voters are easy to control. They knew people would be angry about their delayed EBT paychecks and benefits, and they wanted the anger aimed at Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Trump recommends a $10,000 bonus for the workers who stayed on through the shutdown. And honestly, that is what real leadership looked like. Rewarding the people who stayed steady, who didn't fold under pressure, who actually kept things running while everyone else was too busy pointing fingers. Now, sure, both sides play politics, but this isn't about government efficiency. This was about emotional manipulation. The shutdown was a chess move, frustrate voters, blame Trump, and make Republicans look like villains, and then ride off as the problem solvers after Election Day. That's psychological warfare disguised as politics. It's the Hegelian dialectic: create fire, then sell yourself as the firefighter. And people fall for it every time. If you want proof of what controlled chaos looked like, just look at Chicago, because Chicago is the blueprint. So we're going to talk about it today. Welcome back to the channel, guys. I am Carmen, Jaycee. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe button. Or if you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks or the buy me a coffee link below. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a comment for the algorithm. Plus, you guys know I love to hear what you guys have to say. And I actually missed you guys because it's been a few days. Let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we have to start with Jasmine Crockett, because we literally reached a point in this country where liberal women aren't just confused. They're leading the cultural collapse. The logic is gone. The standards are gone. And apparently now the dignity is gone too. I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at this interaction between Stephanie Miller, a grown-ass woman, literally on her knees, kissing the sneakers of Democrat Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Go ahead and take a listen.
That I just kissed your sneakers. This is true. She's on camera saying she'll do the radio. I am. We're doing it. Future senator of the great state of Texas. I'm gonna miss Ted Cruz so much. He's so likable.
Now, this is where liberal politics has gone. Actual shoe kissing, not respect, not admiration, just pure worship. And to be honest, this guilt-driven behavior is disgusting. The entire white guilt complex is disgusting. This obsession with people needing to atone for things that they didn't do is just as pathetic as the victim complex we see in the Black community. It's two sides of the same broken mentality. And of course, they'll call it empowerment. They'll clap, they'll cheer, and they'll say it's beautiful. But what you're looking at is not empowerment. It is submission. It is cultural delusion pretending to be liberation. And the irony is, Jasmine Crockett is one of the ringleaders of the sisterhood. You already know the type: the loud, the rude, the ghetto, and the disrespectful Black women that you see on your screen, that comes across your screen all the time. These liberal women who think aggression equals strength. She is one of their queens. Now people are literally bowing to her like she's royalty, from the same crowd that screams, "No kings." Now, after getting dragged online, Stephanie didn't apologize. She doubled down and she posted, "Why, yes, I did kiss the sneakers of Jasmine for us, and I do worship the ground she walks on. and she was lovely about it. So not only did she do it, but she's proud of it. You literally cannot make this up. Like, I know some people might find it controversial when people talk about revisiting the 19th Amendment, but the more I see how women behave, the more I understand the argument. Because if this is the level of logic and leadership coming from these so-called educated women, I'd honestly give up my own rights before allowing them to continue to ruin this country. And this kind of behavior does not stop online. It bleeds into real life. Let's go ahead and take a listen to these white liberal women in Chicago standing in a circle blocking ICE officers because they arrested a daycare worker. Go ahead and take a listen.
Tanya, a group of 14 suburban moms, as they call themselves, were arrested a short time ago outside the Broadview ICE facility here after sitting in a circle blocking the middle of this road where Cook County Sheriff deputies, you can see, are standing right now as a symbol of civil disobedience. Take a look at this video. These are moms from across the western suburbs, they say, and they're demanding an end to the campaign of chaos. That's how they describe DHS's Operation Midway Blitz immigration enforcement. Protesters say they're enraged by the terror being inflicted upon their communities, and their friends, relatives, caregivers, and neighbors are living in fear. So these moms tell us they want to amplify what's happening throughout the Chicagoland area and mobilize their community to stand with immigrant families.
Is worse than you can imagine on the streets right now, and it is because of the federal immigration enforcement that we're seeing every day. And our communities are living in abject fear, and it's time for people that look like us to take a stand and put our own physical bodies in front of those bodies, because it is unacceptable.
See, the problem we're having in this country with these white suburban moms, the ones that is least affected by illegal immigration, are somehow the loudest about it. They don't care about the real issues. They care about feeling good, about playing savior, about moral performance. It's a superiority thing. They want you to believe that they're at risk because they stood up for the marginalized, but really it's self-obsession disguised as activism. They believe they have white privilege. They believe everyone else is inferior. And this is how they prove it, by flaunting guilt instead of integrity. It's actually disgusting, especially with everything going on in Chicago right now. People are losing their jobs. Crime is out of control. The city is overrun. And these women are out here protecting illegal immigrants like it is a spiritual calling. It is downright delusional. All right, so Chicago has had a very interesting weekend. Actually, even before the weekend hit, things were already heating up. And what's crazy is the leadership in Chicago just does not seem to care. They seem to side with the illegal aliens. They don't want to cooperate with DHS. They don't want to enforce the law. And quite frankly, it's starting to look intentional. So let's go ahead and take a look at what's happening across the city. First, you had a guy who stole an ambulance with a paramedic still inside and took the police on a high-speed chase through the city. Let's go ahead and look at the coverage on that.
Prosecutors are throwing the book at a Chicago man accused of leading police on a high-speed chase in that stolen ambulance. 59-year-old Lamont Hill charged with 19 felonies, including vehicular hijacking and kidnapping. Police say Hill jumped into the ambulance Friday afternoon at Loretto Hospital and sped off while a paramedic was still in the back. The ambulance hit at least 3 police squad cars before the chase ended. Officers even fired a weapon during the pursuit. No one was hit. Hill is due in court tomorrow.
Now, I believe the police fired a shot during the chase. No one was hit, but somehow they're still investigating the officer who fired the shot, which is amazing. Not in a good way. We literally punishing cops for doing their job while the criminals get to run wild. That right there tells you everything about where Chicago is. Law enforcement is being handcuffed while criminals are being protected. And if you think that that is the only thing that happened, you'd be wrong. In Little Village, an illegal immigrant drove past and shot at ICE officers. So let's go ahead and take a look at the coverage on that.
DHS claims during immigration enforcement operations in Little Village Saturday, shots were fired at Border Patrol agents and objects, including bricks and a paint can, were thrown. Mayor Brandon Johnson on the alleged shooting.
Unfortunately, Bavino and his team have absolutely no credibility because of the repeated lies both to the courts and to the public, so we have no way to verify the reports.
No one was hurt, but police sources say at least 2 shell casings were recovered in the area. DHS claims a man in the U.S. illegally from Mexico is under arrest in connection with the shooting. On social media, a spokesperson writing in part, the suspect has previously been convicted for aggravated unlawful use of a weapon/vehicle, felony possession of a weapon, and illegal entry. Border Patrol Chief Gregory Bovino on Fox News Monday.
This individual should have never been walking the streets of Chicago. This is what you get with a J.B. Pritzker or a Mayor Johnson and that crazy rhetoric.
As federal agents backed off, protesters remained Saturday, some clashing with Chicago police officers. One officer suffering minor injuries when a person trying to leave accidentally hit them, according to CPD.
They are trying to incite chaos, and they are putting our police officers right in the middle of it to clean up the mess that they are creating.
Now, what's wild about this is the manipulation. They keep telling us these people are coming here for a better life, but they can't even cooperate with the police. They can't even respect authority. You literally cannot make this up. And on top of that, the Latin Kings reportedly put out a shoot-on-sight order for ICE officials, meaning that if they see an agent, they're told to open fire. I want you guys to go ahead and take a look at the coverage on that as well.
Federal agents here in the Chicago area are on alert tonight, following word they are being targeted by leaders of a major street gang. This comes as Border Patrol agents are attacked by an individual shooter. Senior correspondent Mike Tobin has the story here in Chicago tonight.
Chicago police get caught in the unrest in the Little Village neighborhood after DHS says a man drove up in a Jeep and fired shots at Border Patrol agents. DHS released pictures of federal vehicles damaged after at least 4 were rammed this weekend. Others were pelted with bricks and cans of paint. And Border Patrol agents were alerted that the street gang, Latin Kings, directed their membership to shoot on sight. Federal agents operating as part of Operation Midway Blitz.
A shoot-on-sight threat for federal law enforcement, that's extremely concerning to us. We actually put that out on an intelligence bulletin to all federal law enforcement, especially Border Patrol.
Federal agents and their top brass say the rhetoric from elected officials in Illinois, calling agents everything from Nazis to barbarians, triggers violence and lawlessness.
That's absolutely insane. And what's worse is how little attention it is actually getting. You got a known gang threatening to assassinate federal officers, and it's barely a blip in the news cycle. Chicago leadership is completely silent. Not one press conference condemning it, at the very least. Not one statement of support for ICE, just nothing. And that silence is not ignorance. It is totally intentional, because chaos serves them. The disorder is a distraction. The more fear and violence there is, the more the government justifies its control, its surveillance, and its funding, all while pretending that they're the victim of their own policies. And then the media went wild with the viral lie about ICE raiding a daycare, the daycare that those women were blocking ICE over. It turns out that the person that they were pursuing ran into the daycare to hide. I believe that she worked there, but she was driving and she drove to her job, and the agents actually followed her in. DHS had to come out and debunk the entire story, and I want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to that.
Next on the list, we have a fake news story almost all major outlets in local Chicago media ran with, that ICE raided a daycare to arrest a preschool teacher. ICE law enforcement did not target a daycare. Officers attempted to conduct a targeted traffic stop of this female illegal alien from Colombia. Officers attempted to pull over this vehicle, which was registered to a female illegal alien with sirens and emergency lights. But the male driver refused to pull the vehicle over. Law enforcement pursued the vehicle before the illegal alien sped into a shopping plaza where he and the female passenger fled the vehicle. They ran into a daycare and attempted to barricade themselves inside, recklessly endangering the children inside. The illegal alien female was arrested inside a vestibule, not in the daycare. Let me be clear. ICE is not targeting daycares or schools.
Now, you guys see what I mean? DHS have one of the hardest jobs in the country. People are going to run. People are going to hide. That is expected. But at the end of the day, this is a nation of laws. And when you stop enforcing those laws, you stop being a country. And that is exactly what you are seeing. Our country is in shambles. And this young lady, she ran towards the children. That does not make sense. Lawlessness is not random. It is policy. And when leadership rewards chaos and punishes order, this is exactly what you get. Criminals running free, police under investigation, gangs threaten federal agents, and politicians pretending everything is fine. And while the streets are burning, the people in charge are on TV acting like nothing is happening. Now, before we talk about our whack job politicians in Illinois, let's start with what happened in Hanover Park, Illinois, because this story sums up about everything that's wrong with the leadership in Chicago. So ICE arrested a Hanover Park police officer, Radul Bajovic, after discovering he'd overstayed a tourist visa for nearly a decade. Yes, you heard that right, a decade. An illegal immigrant wearing a badge, carrying a gun, and exercising authority over American citizens. Now, the Village claimed he had a valid work authorization, but DHS says he didn't. Either way, how in the world did this even get to this point? You cannot work as a police officer in our government without proof of citizenship. That is disgusting, and it proves that Chicago's system isn't hiring for safety, it's hiring for optics. But I still want you guys to go ahead and take a listen to the coverage on that. So go ahead and take a listen.
We've also heard from those concerned over the hiring of this police officer based off of claims made by the Department of Homeland Security. The Village Board president now cautioning the public to consider all the facts before reaching a judgment. Tonight would have been Officer Radul Bajovic's swearing-in ceremony as a Hanover Park police officer. But he's now in the custody of federal agents after the Department of Homeland Security said he overstayed his tourist visa, which allegedly expired in 2015. DHS says Officer Bajovic was encountered during a targeted enforcement action, part of Operation Midway Blitz. The news dividing residents at tonight's Village Board meeting.
I can't imagine that someone who is trying to enforce the laws was one of the bad guys.
Other residents telling ABC7 off camera, based off of information provided by DHS, they have serious concerns over how Bajovic was employed by the police department. Today, DHS released a statement saying, in part, Radul Bajovic violated our nation's laws and was living illegally in the United States for 10 years. Tonight, the Village Board president cautioning the community to consider the facts, saying the village confirmed Bajovic was legally authorized by both the state and federal government to work in the U.S.
Background checks performed by the FBI and Illinois State Police revealed no criminal history. If Officer Bajovic did not hold federal work authorization, he would not have been hired.
The village saying they confirmed Bajovic's immigration status allowed him to carry a firearm on duty.
Now, this just wasn't incompetence. This is the collapse. Because when leadership prioritizes diversity optics over national security, you end up with lawbreakers enforcing the law. And the fact that it took federal agents to expose it should terrify everyone in the state. And if you think that's bad, let's talk about the actual state of the city. According to the Chicago Tribune, there have already been 359 murders this year, and we still have a month and a half to go. Yet somehow Governor J.B. Pritzker thinks Chicago is doing just fine. He goes on national television, cracks a smile and laugh like nothing is actually happening, while bodies are piling up and illegal immigrants are draining city resources. Let's go ahead and take a listen to this interaction with him and Brett Baer on Fox News from a couple weeks ago. Go ahead and take a listen.
They're doing everything by the book.
Why does Chicago have the highest murder rate of all the big cities?
Well, we are not in the top 30 in terms of our murder rate. Indeed, our murder rate it has been cut in half over the last 4 years, and every year it's gone down by double digits. And if you look at all of the violent crime over the last 4 years,
here's a map.
They've all gone down.
U.S. cities, 17.47 per 100,000 population. Chicago is number one over Philadelphia, Houston, Dallas, San Antonio, Phoenix, Los Angeles, New York, and San Diego.
What I'm explaining to you
now,
is
you're
when
talking
you want to
about
fight
violent crime.
Look, you can pull statistics up.
No, these are murders.
I'm explaining to you that our murder rate has been cut in half. And very importantly, Brett, and you got to hear this, very importantly, we've been doing the things that are necessary to bring crime down, right? We've invested in community violence interruption. We've invested in police.
Now, Brett Baer actually showed Pritzker a chart proving Chicago ranked number one among major cities from crime per 100,000 people. And what does Pritzker do? He sits there pretending like crime isn't a problem. You should be insulted by that because there's clearly a problem. And he doesn't have to live anywhere near it because he is a billionaire. He's not living in the chaos his own policies create. This is what people need to start thinking about. And then there's Brandon Johnson calling ICE raids a human rights crisis while literally begging the United Nations to intervene in our federal government. You literally cannot make this up. The same guy who can't even manage his own city wants the UN to babysit the country. Not to mention, he didn't want Donald Trump to come into his city, but he will allow the UN to make decisions about what's a human rights crisis. Let's go ahead and take a look at this clip of Brandon Johnson, and we're going to watch Tom Homan respond to him. Go ahead and take a listen.
Mayor Brandon Johnson is asking the United Nations to intervene to stop your operations. Here is what he said before the UN Human Rights Council. Listen to this.
The federal government's immigration enforcement has been marked by violence and an assault on the dignity of all Chicagoans. I call on this council to hold the federal government of the United States to the same standards of accountability you apply elsewhere in the world. No country should be above international law. I urge the Human Rights Council to consider additional measures of accountability, including a special session to examine the worsening human rights crisis in the United States.
Tom, this is just pure lunacy, but what is your reaction to all of that?
He just proved he's not that smart, right? I mean, asking the United Nations to interfere with ICE enforcing U.S. law, it's like asking an arsonist how to stop a fire. Because the UN, remember, the IOM, the part of the UN, helped fund the mass migration during the Biden administration 4 years, spending millions upon millions of dollars helping that migration, international migration come to the United States. So, the United Nations is not going to tell President Trump what to do. President Trump was put in office on the promise of making this country safe again, on the promise of having the historic deportation operation. That's exactly what America is getting. Every criminal alien ICE and Border Patrol takes off the street makes this country safer. We have the most secure border in the history of the nation right now because of leadership of President Trump, the men and women of the Border Patrol, and because ICE, what ICE is doing in the interior every day, they've sent a message across the globe. Don't spend your life savings, cross the border illegally, think you're going to get away in the United States. Because of what ICE is doing, people aren't spending their life savings, putting themselves in harm's way. Thousands of people aren't dying making that journey. Thousands of Americans aren't dying from fentanyl because of that secure border. But the actions of the interior, the ICE and Border Patrol, has a lot to do why we have the most secure border in the history of this nation today.
And you're doing now, when it comes to Brandon Johnson, I'm just not shocked anymore. Johnson acts like following the law is oppression, but when you bring up the chaos in his city, suddenly it is complex. It is the cowardice disguised as compassion. These politicians pose as humanitarians while their citizens suffer. And just to remind everybody what the so-called deporter-in-chief himself had to say, let's go ahead and take a listen to the deporter-in-chief himself. Go ahead and take a listen.
If you're a criminal, you'll be deported. If you plan to enter the U.S. illegally, your chances of getting caught and sent back just went up. The actions I'm taking are not only lawful, they're the kinds of actions taken by every single Republican president and every single Democratic president for the past half century.
See, Obama said it, not me. So if you didn't have outrage when he was deporting people, you shouldn't suddenly find it now just because it's Donald Trump. Veterans Day should remind us of sacrifice and order, but what we're seeing is betrayal and confusion. The people who actually build and protect this country get one day of respect, while the people destroying it get endless protection from the media, the politicians, and the so-called activists. The same people who scream about human rights have no problem watching Americans suffer as long as they can keep pretending they're the good guys. And let's be clear, the shutdown wasn't an accident, it was a stunt. And we better start recognizing these stunts while they're happening instead of after the damage is done. Because this is how they operate. Emotional manipulation, timed chaos, and distractions. Chicago is not an isolated failure. It is a mirror of what's coming to the rest of the country if we don't wake up. We have to stand together, not just complain online, but actually stand up for the people trying to destroy this country. If you love America, you stand with law enforcement, you stand with ICE, and you stand with your fellow Americans. Because at the end of the day, you have more in common with your neighbor, even if they're a liberal whack job, than you'll ever have in common with the elites at the top. So let's stop pretending to care and start actually caring. Because the disorder we're seeing is not random. It is by design. And if Americans don't wake up soon, every city will look like Chicago, chaotic, corrupt, and controlled. And before I close out, to every veteran watching, thank you for your service, your sacrifice, and your strength. You are the reason we still have a country worth fighting for. All right, guys, I'm going to get into some of you guys' comments. Someone says, courage and clarity. Thank you. Thank you, someone. I appreciate you supporting the channel. Cosmic Ray says, never stop. Thank you so much, Cosmic Ray, for your generous donation. And I appreciate you so much for supporting the channel. Marcus Daniel says, Carmen Jaycee, you're such a lady. Thank you. Thank you so much, Marcus Daniel. You're always supporting the channel. I really, really appreciate you. And I am just so thankful for you and your support. Tana says, hi, Carmen. I really appreciate and respect all that you do. Would love to talk to you sometime. You are my definition of a woman. Thank you so much, Tana. You can talk to me all the time here on my channel. And just if you send me direct messages, I do try to respond to some of them. So I hope that helps. Thomas Kim says, started following you 2 months ago after the Charlie Kirk assassination. I understand that times are tough without Snap. So when my best friend asked to borrow money, I sent it with a message to join the Republican Party. I got the response that the shutdown is the Republicans' fault because we control everything now. I responded asking if she knew what a filibuster was and how 60 votes was needed in the Senate. She responded, no, and Trump is to blame, and since he's the president. You are doing the Lord's work, Carmen, and I can't deal with it. God bless you. Thomas, I'm not going to lie, it really is hard when people have their mind made up to kind of explain your point of view, because honestly, how the news is presented these days, it's kind of like nowhere you can go for just like the straight facts. You have to kind of sort through it yourself. So it's really unfortunate, but just pray for your friend. Dante says, you're the best. Stay righteous. Thank you so much, Dante. LAPD says, keep up the good work. You speak honesty. I really appreciate you, LAPD. Rick says, Miss Jaycee, you are the most perfect example of a woman with class, distinction, beauty, and brilliance on the planet. One day when the rapture gets here, you'll be one of God's angels rounding up people to take to heaven. Laugh out loud. Yeah, I'm exaggerating a little, but very little. Keep up the good work. I really appreciate you, Rick. That was actually really beautiful because I really do try and I get a lot of flack for it. So yeah, there's that. Ron Robinson says, I am proud of you and other young voices speaking the truth. I really appreciate that, Ron Robinson. BGT says, now the rest of the world is suffering what Black America has been dealing with for 50 years. Yeah, sure. I think that we've all been dealing with it for forever. Quindy Eskimo says, thanks. Thank you, Quindy Eskimo. Patrick Yu says, thanks. Thank you, Patrick Yu. L.A. Moss says, thanks. Thank you, L.A. Moss. WLMG says, old Asian lady can collector was the most hilarious costume. I didn't see it. I wish I had it. I needed like a lot of laughs because I had a lot of good laughs off the Halloween costumes. They were actually hilarious. But, you know, I wish that we could just go back to having fun because a lot of it is not about fun. Quindy Eskimo also says, some of your videos are being reacted to by a growing number of other content creators. You are growing. Thank you so much, Quindy Eskimo. I really am trying to get my message out there and spread this message, even though it's not really easy on the ears, but it's what we need to hear. And if you can't take hard messages and hard truths, then you're never going to be able to survive with the people that we deal with at the top of this country. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys. And I don't know if I could do this without you guys. You guys are beyond amazing. I am Carmen Jaycee. If you're new here, make sure you hit the like or the subscribe button. Or if you want to support the channel, hit the super thanks or the buy me a coffee link below. Also, make sure you guys go ahead and drop a comment for the algorithm. Plus, you guys know I love to hear what you guys have to say. I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys next time.
I'm breaking chains, freeing minds, it's a time to rise. Conscious culture in my veins, yeah, we see through the lies. They telling stories, trying to mold what we thinking inside. But I'm cutting through illusions, showing truth worldwide. They trying to box us in, but we step out the line. Redefining who we are, no longer falling behind. I see the games they playing, how they shape our design. So I'm speaking for the thinkers who refuse to be blind.